when I was left in those situations of potential doubt and not knowing if I were good enough or designed well enough for the pilot role, which was this sort of utopia, I always kept in mind the picture of me flying in a flight deck. Now at that time I didn't know if it would be 737 or Airbus or something like that, but I wanted to fly a large jet, passenger jet. And so I always kept a picture of me departing and flying up to a sunset. So you would just break out of the clouds and then you see the sunset. That was the picture I kept in my mind throughout the ATPL theories. I had something visual up in my mind, and other than that, I would have it on my background of my phone, pictures all around. I would try to get my mind to understand that this is the direction I was going. For the last couple of days, I've been thinking quite a lot about what I'm actually going to speak about in this video. And I came forward to here just a couple of hours ago that I'm going to speak about sacrifices and what I've learned along the way in regards to becoming a pilot, and also most importantly what I've learned for the last, I'd say definitely 10 years of working with other people and myself. I want to jump back to the start. To the start of something we all can relate to, and I'm going to speak about elementary school to draw up a little example here. So in elementary school, I clearly remember that I've never really been a book genius by any means. I've always been somewhat good at communicating with my friends back then, and later on my colleagues and people in general. However, back in elementary school, you would go through the different classes or grades, so 0, 1, 2nd, 3rd grade, and 4th grade, and so forth. And usually there would be some sort of test to end off either the year or the semester or whatever it would be called in your country, in your elementary. And at that point, I remember very clearly you were being taught that you had to make some sort of sacrifices in order to actually pass this test. Back then it was, you had to understand mathematics, you had to understand how to multiply and subtract and all of these things. And what I believe all of us learned at a relatively young age was that in order to get a decent, respectable grade, however that was defined, you would have to sit down and make a choice to understand these things. That's the example I think of when I come to think of sacrifices. Moving forward, it's really been the same. For me, before I started flight school, I was working. I wanted to work within international business. I wanted to wear a suit and a tie. I wanted to be at meetings, work in offices, and so forth. However, I moved to Portugal and I realized that the office job wasn't really for me, so I looked into flight school, or being a pilot, I should say, and it was rather very amazingly interesting for me. It was just the thing I wanted. However, I realized that it cost about 100,000 euros or approximately $100,000 as well. And there was not any money I had. I've not grown up in any, say, wealthy family. When I was 13, I had my first job where I worked in a pet store where I cleaned all of the animal cages, and I would get a small, very small, little wage, if you will, for that work being done. And that was when I realized that if I put in the work for something, there's some sort of reward in the other end. And it's been very much the same approach to flying. So to bring you up to speed, before I was based in Dublin and Manchester with a relatively, I'm sure most of you guys know, with a relatively large airline in Europe. And one thing, by the way, the reason why pilots always say a relatively large airline or the airline that flies this is simply that within most airlines, you're not really allowed to mention their name. And it actually makes sense, because imagine if you say something or other people say something that's not really in their interest. And so if some of you are wondering as to why most pilots on YouTube and whatnot are saying this, that's the reason. Because it's not really associated with the airline you work in, and it's the same for me. The reason why I make the videos I make, like I'm doing right now, it's not for the airline. It's for my own interest and me giving my experience further on to you guys and people who potentially might want to be pilots and in general just want to learn in life. So that's the reason why I do the videos. In order to become a pilot, just like the elementary example, there's a lot of sacrifices you need to make. There's things you need to understand. There's handling things you need to attune your mind and your body to. It's very famous within the aviation industry to speak about knowledge, skills, and attitudes. For me personally, I find these things to become a little bit theoretical. It's very important for me to make things as simple as it is, and I believe being a good colleague, a good pilot, is obviously, first of all, you need to want to be good at what you do. And then you need to figure out how you become good at the things. Now, being a pilot, it's about knowing the different manuals. It's about knowing the aircraft systems. It's about knowing the procedures. It differs from airline to airline. And so that's really a thing airlines would call attitude. That's probably a thing I would call discipline. And either you want it or you don't. And hopefully you want it. And if you want it, do it 100%. You've been given a choice. You need to make a few sacrifices. However, if you make those sacrifices for a short period of time, the reward is you working in a job you like.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
And then the question is, has it been worth it making these sacrifices? The answer is yes, it's been very much worth it. I'm going out flying here later and I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to go out flying with great colleagues. And for me, I'd say the biggest sacrifice was simply realizing and agreeing with myself, most importantly, that I wanted to do this. And then I kept that picture in my head for all of that time. So when you were challenged with the theory, which I were in flight school, at the time of flight school on my behalf, there were 12 written exams you had to go up to. I went up to all of them. It's not uncommon for people to fail or flunk a test or exam. So don't think it's the end of your career. It's not. I failed too. And the most important thing I would say is how you react to the failure. Obviously, it's important for you. You get nervous. That's why you're there. You want to be good. It means something. People do this in different ways. That was just how I did it. However, the sacrifice once again was that I had to decide I wanted to do 100%, and then let that be the primary focus, and then figure out what's secondary. I have friends now. They have a family. They have kids. They have could be a wife. Could be a girlfriend. I wouldn't say that has to be sacrificed. However, it's important to have your priorities straight. And if you're in a position where other people are depending on you, make a plan. Either you make a plan or you plan to fail. That's sort of a typical saying, as rough as it might sound in this context. So, sacrifices. We all do it. Believe in the end goal. Believe in yourself. You can do it, whatever it is. Whatever, if it's flying or something else. Make sure to ask yourself the question, do I want to do this? If the answer is yes, figure out how you do it. Make the plan. And just like investing, I would say, think long term. Don't think a month. Don't think 2 months. I understand that sometimes in the processes, it's hard to think long term because you need to take care of all of these small steps. However, always zoom out up in the helicopter perspective, right? So zoom out a little bit and then see it in the large and the big picture. It's going to help you a lot. Thank you. thank you for listening. Thank you for you. I wish you all of the best. And I need to say, please subscribe, leave a like, and in regards to what I said, if you're curious, if you have any questions, leave a comment. I'll do my very best to answer it the best way I can. And look, I'm just a regular guy that values doing something that's fun and doing something that means a lot to me. And flying as a pilot is a great occupation. Comes with responsibility like everything else. That's important for me. So believe in yourself. Thank you. Until next time, have a great day. Bye.